If you grew up watching the NFL, there's a good chance you've never heard this name. And that's not because he wasn't great, it's because his greatness happened where most football fans were never taught to look. Damon Allen is one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in the history of professional football, yet his name is almost never mentioned in conversations about the game's all time greats. He finished his career as the all time leading passer in professional football, throwing for more yards than anyone who ever played the position. He won 4 championships, earned multiple MVP honors, and even captured a league MVP at 42 years old. He wasn't just a passer either. Allen was a true dual threat before the term became fashionable, rushing for nearly 12,000 yards over his career, numbers most quarterbacks could never even dream of touching. And yet, despite all of that, Damon Allen remains largely unknown to NFL fans today. That's what this channel is about. Old School Sundays exist to uncover the players' history quietly moved past, the stars whose careers didn't fit the league-approved narrative. Today, we're reintroducing you to a great black quarterback who dominated professional football for more than 2 decades and asking how a career this legendary could ever be forgotten. Long before Damon Allen became a name etched into record books north of the border, he was already proving he belonged among football's elites. Born in San Diego, Allen grew up with the football in his hands and expectations on his shoulders. By the time most kids were still learning the game, he was already commanding it. At Valencia Park's Pop Warner program, Allen wasn't just playing quarterback, he was winning championships, stacking undefeated seasons, and showing a natural command of the position that coaches don't teach. It was instinctive. That dominance followed him to Lincoln High School, where Allen became the unquestioned leader of the program. As a starter, he went 22-2, guided his team to consecutive CIF championships, and earned Tribune Athlete of the Year honors. He wasn't doing it with gimmicks or raw athleticism alone. He won with poise, accuracy, and a feel for the game that separated quarterbacks from throwers. And when the football season ended, Allen simply picked up a baseball and kept winning. On the mound, he went 14-2 as a pitcher, helping lead Lincoln's baseball team to the top ranking in San Diego County. 2 sports, one constant, excellence. At Cal State Fullerton, Allen's reputation only grew sharper. He didn't just win games, he rewrote expectations. He broke 7 school records, led the Titans to 2 conference championships, and set an NCAA mark by throwing just 3 interceptions in more than 300 attempts. In an era that claimed quarterbacks had to be safe or athletic, Allen was both. He earned first team all conference honors, received Heisman Trophy votes, and stood shoulder to shoulder with names like Randall Cunningham on national all region lists. This wasn't a fringe prospect. This was a quarterback with efficiency, leadership, and championship DNA already stamped on his resume. And yet, when the NFL doors opened, they didn't open wide for Damon Allen. Instead, opportunity waited somewhere else, just across a border that would quietly change football history forever. When Damon Allen crossed into Canada in 1985, it wasn't with headlines or hype. He arrived the way many great players do, quietly, unsigned by the league that claimed to define football greatness and eager for an opportunity that had already taken too long to come. The Edmonton Eskimos saw something the NFL hadn't acted on. Allen signed as a free agent and stepped into a quarterback room led by established starter Matt Dunnigan, a veteran with the job firmly in hand. For Allen, the early years were about patience, preparation, and waiting for the moment that changes everything. That moment came in the most unforgiving setting possible. The 1987 Grey Cup wasn't supposed to belong to Damon Allen. Dunnigan went down with an injury, and suddenly a young backup was thrust into the biggest game of the season with no margin for error. What followed wasn't hesitation, it was control. Allen guided the Eskimos through a shootout victory over Toronto, delivering throws under pressure and running when defenses forgot he could. By the final whistle, Edmonton had won the championship, and Allen had been named Grey Cup Most Valuable Player. It was the kind of performance that usually launches careers. Instead, it quietly announced a pattern. Whenever Allen was given responsibility, he didn't just rise to the occasion, he elevated it. But consistency and opportunity remained elusive. In 1989, he signed with the Ottawa Rough Riders, a franchise struggling to find stability. Wins were hard to come by, But Allen's impact wasn't. By 1990 and 1991, he was redefining what a quarterback could be in the CFL, throwing for over 4,000 yards while rushing for more than 1,000. Numbers that blurred positional lines and embarrassed defensive game plans. Still, recognition lagged behind production. Teams changed, systems shifted. Allen adapted every single time. What began as a backup's chance had turned into something far more dangerous, a quarterback evolving beyond labels, building a game the football world hadn't fully prepared itself to understand, and one that was only getting harder to ignore. By the early 1990s, Damon Allen was no longer just productive, he was disruptive. Not in personality, but in concept. He forced defenses, coaches, and record books to confront a simple problem. There was no historical box built to contain what he was doing at quarterback. Allen wasn't surviving on improvisation or athletic chaos. He was mastering the position from every angle. In Ottawa, then later in Hamilton, and back in Edmonton, Allen delivered seasons that still look unreal by today's standards. He threw for thousands of yards with timing and touch, then punished defenses with his legs when they turned their backs. In 1991, he rushed for over 1,000 yards as a quarterback, becoming only the second player in league history to do it. That wasn't a trick stat, that was a strategic nightmare. Linebackers froze, safeties hesitated, defensive coordinators were forced to choose which part of him they wanted to lose to. And he made them pay either way. This was long before the league embraced dual threat quarterbacks as a selling point. There were no buzzwords, no branding campaigns, just production. Allen piled up rushing touchdowns at a pace most running backs would envy while still operating offenses with precision and discipline. By the time he returned to Edmonton in 1993, he wasn't just playing quarterback, he was redefining how valuable the position could be. That season, Allen didn't just lead the Eskimos to another Grey Cup, he dominated the postseason. In brutal conditions, including a West Final played in a blizzard, he threw 4 touchdown passes and then delivered another championship performance in the Grey Cup, earning his second Grey Cup MVP. It was the ultimate confirmation. Allen wasn't system dependent, weather dependent, or era dependent. Yet, even as his resume grew heavier, the conversation around him stayed light. No national debates, no legacy framing, just numbers stacking quietly year after year. And while the football world debated what a quarterback was supposed to look like, Damon Allen kept becoming something far more dangerous, undeniable. By the late 1990s, Damon Allen had already outlasted expectations. What he hadn't done yet was slow down. If anything, his career entered a phase that separates great players from historical ones. The ability to win no matter the uniform, no matter the circumstances, no matter the scars already collected along the way. When Allen joined the BC Lions, the numbers followed him immediately. In 1999, he delivered one of the most complete seasons of his career. Over 4,200 passing yards, more than 500 attempts, 8 rushing touchdowns, and 5 300-yard passing games. He was named a West Division All-Star, twice earned Player of the Week honors, and led BC to the league's best record. But greatness doesn't always get rewarded cleanly. In the West Final, with the Grey Cup set to be played in BC's own stadium, one late fumble ended the dream. Calgary advanced. Allen walked off with the weight of another season reduced to a footnote. A lesser quarterback might have faded there. Allen responded by rewriting history instead. In 2000, he became the CFL's all-time leading passer, surpassing Ron Lancaster, one of the league's most sacred names. That same season, he delivered the moment that had escaped him the year before, guiding the Lions through the playoffs and capturing a Grey Cup championship. Redemption didn't arrive loudly, it arrived decisively. Then came Toronto at 39 years old, when most quarterbacks are preparing farewell speeches. Allen was traded to the Argonauts and immediately turned longevity into leverage. In his first season back with the franchise, he crossed the 60,000-yard milestone and broke the CFL record for career touchdown passes. New system, new city, same result. By now, championships had followed him across decades and franchises. Cold weather, expansion teams, playoff pressure, it didn't matter. Damon Allen didn't just win early in his career, he kept winning long after the league assumed his time had passed. And just when it seemed like his story was winding down, Football delivered its cruelest test yet, one that would define the final chapter of his greatness. In 2004, time finally seemed ready to claim Damon Allen. At 41 years old, during a regular season game against Calgary, Allen suffered a fractured tibia, an injury severe enough to end careers half his age. The reaction was immediate and predictable. The whispers turned into assumptions. He was finished. The league moved on. Even in Toronto, the depth chart quietly shifted forward without him. But Damon Allen has spent his entire career operating in spaces where expectations ended. He rehabbed, he waited, and when he returned, it wasn't ceremonial, it was surgical. Late in the season, Allen stepped back onto the field and delivered one of the most efficient performances in Argonauts history, completing 13 straight passes in a single game. Accuracy replaced doubt, command replaced rust. What looked like a farewell tour turned into a warning. Then came the Grey Cup. Against the BC Lions, the same franchise tied to both heartbreak and redemption earlier in his career, Allen authored one of the most improbable championship performances football has ever seen. He completed 23 of 34 passes for nearly 300 yards, threw a touchdown, and rushed for two more. Calm, controlled, relentless. By the end of the night, Toronto had another championship banner, and Damon Allen had another Grey Cup MVP, the third of his career. If that wasn't enough, the following season erased any remaining argument. At 42 years old, Allen threw for over 5,000 yards and was named the CFL's most outstanding player, becoming one of the oldest MVPs in North American professional sports history. Not a nostalgia award, a dominance award. Football didn't let him age quietly. It forced him to prove, again, that he was still better than the alternatives. And as the records continued to fall, one moment loomed larger than all the rest. A single throw on a familiar stage that would finally force the entire football world to acknowledge what it had spent decades overlooking. On September 4th, 2006, in the Labor Day Classic, Damon Allen did something that should have reshaped football history. With a short shovel pass, he surpassed Warren Moon to become the all-time leader passer in professional football. Not CFL football, not Canadian football, professional football. More yards than anyone who had ever taken a snap at quarterback. The game stopped, the crowd stood, a presentation followed. The record-breaking football was handed over. History, at least for a moment, paused to recognize him. And then, it moved on. Allen kept playing because that's what he had always done. By the time he retired in 2008, he had thrown for more than 72,000 yards, rushed for nearly 12,000 more, and scored 93 rushing touchdowns, numbers that shattered positional expectations. He finished with more pass attempts, completions, and total offense than any quarterback the CFL had ever seen. He played 23 seasons, started over 300 games, survived eras that ended careers far younger and far quicker. Eventually, the honors arrived. Canadian Football Hall of Fame, Canada Sports Hall of Fame, named one of the greatest players the league had ever produced. In Canada, Damon Allen's place was secure, but south of the border, the silence lingered. No NFL countdowns, no legacy debates, no documentaries revisiting how far ahead of his time he truly was. Just a footnote attached to a league most American fans were never taught to take seriously. That's the uncomfortable truth at the heart of Damon Allen's career. His greatness wasn't disputed, it was compartmentalized, celebrated in one country, overlooked in another, and quietly removed from the broader conversation about what quarterback excellence really looks like. Because if you strip away league labels, geography, and habit, one thing becomes impossible to deny. Football didn't forget Damon Allen because he wasn't great. It forgot him because it didn't know how to tell his story. And that raises one final question. Who else has history left behind for the same reason? If this story opened your eyes to a quarterback you were never told about, do me a favor. Like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It lets YouTube know these forgotten stories matter and helps Old School Sundays keep uncovering the legends football history left behind. More great players, more real football history. We'll see you next time on Old School Sundays. Thanks for watching.